Well, with only 4 paychecks left until Christmas and warmer weather in the air, now is a good time for you to spring clean your finances and put some prudent steps in place to get rid of old, unhealthy financial habits. Joining us now in studio to discuss in ways in which you can get your money matters back in order is Finweek Editor Jana Marais. Jana, always good to have you with us.
Hi.
You're quite right. We are seeing the sunshine coming through and making some reprieve from the winter chills that we certainly had. But when it comes to our money matters, we're always talking about this issue of financial discipline. But what are some of the typical mistakes that we often see consumers making?
Well, I must say, I was a topic of a big joke in the office because everyone was saying, are you going to talk about how people should run their budgets? But anyway, so I think I'm quite a good expert at talking about the mistakes that people make, because I must say the ones that I'll mention are things that I've done myself as well. I think one of the big ones is that we don't actually have a budget and then we spend more than we earn. And that's the first thing that you need to get under control, is to actually control where your money is going. I think the second thing is that people cash in their retirement savings when they change jobs, and I've done this, and I must have done this more than once, I'm ashamed to admit. So don't do that. It's very hard to catch up on savings that you've cashed out, and you think, oh, but I'm going to earn more and I'll pay off debt with this, and but yeah, just don't do that. And I think the third thing is that people take out loans and financing without really understanding what it's going to cost them. And a good example are things like buying a fridge or a washing machine on credit at Game, and you think, oh, it's costing me 200 Rand a month or 250 Rand a month, I can easily afford that. But ultimately you pay 5,000 or 6,000 Rand for something that should have cost you 2,000 Rand, and you should actually have just saved up for it and bought it cash up front.
Exactly. So it's a whole culture change and shock that needs to take place here. But when it comes to coming back to the budget that you alluded to, there are some unhealthy habits. I like going out to lunch a little bit too often, sometimes during the month.
Order an extra glass of wine. And
exactly. So obviously these are unhealthy habits, but how does one go about identifying them and, more importantly, instilling the discipline to steer away from such discrepancies?
That is a very difficult thing to get right, I think, and it really takes discipline, as you say. I think for me personally, the most difficult thing is to actually track where my money is going, because it's 20 Rand here and 150 Rand there, and and soon you don't actually know how much did I spend at the cafeteria for lunch today. So I think to find an app or a method that works for you to actually keep track of where your money is going. And what a lot of people recommend is that you do this religiously for 2 or 3 months, so that you actually know, this is how much I spend on going out with my friends, this is how much I spend on buying groceries at Pick n Pay, and this is how much I spend on paying off debt and all sorts of that. And the golden rule is it's actually quite easy. 50% of your budget should go to essentials, things like housing, transport, food, toiletries. 20% to savings, and that includes retirement savings, and then 30% is discretionary spending. And if I say that out loud, it actually, it's actually quite a nice chunk of your budget that you can blow on dinners with your mates, or going away for the weekend, or your gym membership, or whatever the case may be. So as soon as you know where your money is going, and you can see how much should be going to discretionary spending, you can start actually cutting down on those things that you don't really need.
So true, and you're quite right. The more often you see that, especially displayed in charts or some kind of visuals from
the
banking apps, exactly, you get a shock like, that's not me.
Yeah, no, absolutely.
Coming back to that theme though, Jana, you understand how to manage your budget, but the D word, debt. How do we get that under control? Because for many South Africans, access to credit is very easy to get these days.
No, absolutely. And the next thing you know, you're actually in real trouble. So, I mean, the golden rule is always pay off your expensive things first. So store cards, your Edgar's card, your Willie's card. And I mean, is that not the most evil thing in the world? So I think actually to start with, you should know what your total debt situation is like, because a lot of us are in denial about how much we actually owe. Because, you can make your monthly repayments, so you don't actually look at the big picture and how much money you're effectively wasting on things like interest. So I think you should know where you stand at the moment with debt, and then decide, by December, I want these store cards paid off completely. What is it going to take me to get there? So if you know what you actually owe, and then start with the expensive stuff. And actually, personally, I think start with the small things, because it actually gives you that confidence. When you've got the one paid off, you have accomplished something, and then move on to the next thing. But yeah, you need to know where you are at the moment in terms of your finances and what you can afford to put in extra in terms of paying that off.
What about savings? Because that's always a critical theme, and sometimes we think we're saving, but yet we're actually allocating those funds somewhere else where you're actually going to spend it in the short to medium term. And tax-free savings accounts, maybe that's a positive example to allude to that consumers can get access to.
Yeah, I think everyone should have a tax-free savings account, and there's so many options. You know, it doesn't have to just be a bank account. There's so many investment products. You can start buying shares tax-free. I mean, and I think personally, I think that is actually the thing that you should be doing, is find an ETF that's quite cheap, that's simple to understand, and open up a tax-free savings account and put a certain. You can only save 30,000 rand a year in that, in any case. So make sure that you at least reach that target.
We'll leave it there for today, Jana. Thank you so much for your time. And again, I think we advocate on the show getting professional financial advice too.
Absolutely, yes.
Which also helps.
Yeah, definitely.
Perfect. Thank you so much for the tips, Jana. And hopefully the colleagues in the newsroom won't tease you anymore, because I think you have some sound suggestions to give. That was Finweek Editor, though, Jana Marais.